Hey guys, welcome back to the Cool Classic Kids Show, and today we're talking about the Final Fantasy 16 demo, because Final Fantasy 16 happens to be my most anticipated game of the year. To me, everything they've shown this far with this game has seemed so much better than just about everything else out there, in my personal opinion. Now, it's obviously subjective, but to me, I was just like, man, this game seems to be a super overachiever. And now I finally got to play the demo, which encompasses, there's two parts to this demo. So the first part encompasses the first 2 or so hours of the game, and then there's a combat section which you get to utilize all the mechanics that the main character has at his disposal. Now, the first 2 hours of the game doesn't have that, so there's definitely a really big difference in combat here. So the reason why I basically played it twice, I normally like to play things more than once if I possibly can, especially if I love something. But the main reason I did play it twice was because, well, my monitor doesn't have compatible VRR support with the PS5. My monitor is FreeSync capable, but I think it's too old, and the PS5 just doesn't recognize that it has VRR support. It is what it is on that front. But I was like, well, the frame rate of the game, that's definitely an issue here, man. Not all the time. Now, most of the time, it's actually pretty damn good. It's very passable for the most part. Now, when you have the cinematic QTE scenes, that's when the frame rate seems to dip pretty substantially. The other time the game happens to dip a decent bit is during icon battles. It's very, very noticeable. I was like, well, I saw that on my monitor. It doesn't have compatible VR support with PS5. So I'm like, you know what, let me do my due diligence and play it on my TV that has compatible VR support with my PS5. So I did that, and I didn't really see much of a difference. So I'm still seeing the same frame rate dips. And the other issue with the game being the motion blur is so heavy. I don't know how you console Kremlins do it, honestly. I guess I'm spoiled because in just about every PC game, I have the option to just turn off motion blur completely. Now, there's definitely some games that allow you to judge how heavy motion blur is. It would have been nice if they would have added the ability to at least turn it down a decent bit. Sometimes I do opt for very light motion blur. It's rare when I do, but sometimes a tad bit is not bad at all by any means. But the motion blur in Final Fantasy 16 on PS5 is very excessive, and you can't turn it off. That was a huge problem for me. Now, with the first segment of this demo being the first 2 hours of the game, the highlight is the story. There is so many things that's happening in this story, so much things being set up. It can actually be a lot to take in. Now, this game is very story heavy. It's very story driven. So I will say, if you're in this because, man, the combat director is the dude that did DMC5. If that's the only reason why you're here, you may be disappointed. I'm not saying that the combat's bad. Matter of fact, if you play the combat mode, I think the combat is actually great. But it's definitely no DMC5 level of combat. And to me, that's actually not bad because, well, I suck at DMC5, at least in terms of being able to do all the insane things that you can do in that game. There's some of my friends that have been playing these games are actually genuinely good at combat, hack and slash games like a DMC5. Even they can't do some of the combos in that game. That's how insane the stuff that you can do in there is. This combat is not as insane as that. However, the combat can be extremely flashy, but you're not going to see that in the first 2 hours of the game. You have to go play the combat segment of this demo. It is what it is. The story drip feeds you like combat. So if you play the first 2 hours and just judge it by that, you're going to think, man, this combat absolutely sucks. I can't really do much here. It's mostly just mashing square and then being able to use one super every 2 minutes or so. It can seem very, very boring, but it gets better. It gets better, and the combat segment of the demo really does prove that. Now, this game is the best way to describe it, at least from what I played thus far. It's the Metal Gear Solid 4 of Final Fantasy games. If you are annoyed by cutscenes, well, there's too much of it, buddy. I'm just saying. You're gonna have to get used to that. I don't mind it specifically because once I'm put into combat segments, my hand isn't really held. Obviously, I'm hit with obviously I'm hit with like you know, tutorial things where it stops me, but obviously that's tutorial level stuff. Once I'm past that, you know, you're able to just play the game. And I appreciate that. I hate when you're kind of forced to walk around here and there and just make the make the in-game stuff feel like cinema. I don't like that nonsense. Now, if you're gonna have cutscenes, I don't mind the cutscenes. Just leave the cinema out of the actual gameplay. That's all I really ask with games like this. So overall, I'm okay with the story, the cutscenes being there because I see this story coming together and it is pretty insane thus far. I'm dying for this game to come out, and it comes out in like 9 days, it being the 13th right now as of the recording of this video. Man, I can't wait for it. But the overall world design, I think, is very well done. The game is beautiful. The game is beautiful. The character designs for both, you know, your friendly teammates as well as the enemies, all really nicely done here. The combat, once you actually unlock all the stuff you could do, once you can like switch between different icons during combat and use their powers at your whim, it really starts to like be a constant like visually beautiful game, like while you're playing the game. The combat effects are insane, and switching between those different icons, it is a beautiful game. It is a genuinely beautiful game. Overall combat, besides the cinema QTE scenes that transition quickly from your combat moments, the combat's really good. The frame rate is pretty solid. I don't really have issues with just Clive playing as Clive fighting enemies. Some of those enemies are really big, and I don't have any problems with the frame rate on that front. It seems to be pretty solid. Oh man, this game is awesome. This game is awesome. One other complaint I do have, and I guess it's a bit, would be considered petty, but at the same time, this is something I expect from a game that came out like 15 years ago and not a game that's coming out in 2023 that's clearly a very high budget game, being Final Fantasy 16. The way Clive walks in this world, it feels like he's hovering over the ground. He doesn't feel like he's actually standing on the ground. When you run around, it just feels very he's floaty. Like, it looks weird. And it reminds me so much of Oblivion, because I played Oblivion for like 3 straight years, and the same thing is happening. You're running, but you're just like, even though you're running, you're just floating on the ground. And it's very jarring, especially if you go back and forth. It just looks super goofy. I wasn't expecting it to really feel like that, but it does, sadly. The thing is, it's just, you're, for the most part, unless you're in icon mode, when you're actually an icon, you're always going to be noticing this. So it's something that you're going to see all of the time, which is kind of, it's kind of sucky. It is kind of sucky. There was a moment where I actually didn't play as Clive, which was weird. I wasn't expecting that, but it was interesting to actually play as someone else. Thankfully, I don't think you're going to do that again, at least with the character they did switch you to. I will say this, guys, if here's the honest truth. If you don't like the combat segment of this demo, you're probably not going to like the game. So if that's the case, if you felt like there's too much cinema there, you're probably not going to like the game. So if you're in it because, oh, you like, you know, you like combat and you're not much of a story person, like I said, if you like stuff like DMC and you're thinking, I can get that DMC fix here, no, that's not going to be the case. This is for a role-playing, a RPG fan, a Japanese RPG fan, because that's really the type of style they obviously are going for here. They obviously have tried to appeal to the action combat sort of individuals, and while I think they do a good job, there's just too much other things going on for me to say this is an action game. It's clearly not just an action game. It is a Japanese RPG game through and through, with some damn good, decent combat in there thrown in. Overall, I'm picking this game up day one. While it's not perfect, I hope that there's at least another patch before launch that does address some parts of this frame rate so that we get some steady frame rate action going here, and an option to tone down that motion blur. Overall, I can't play it on my PC, and that's kind of a shame, because I feel like this game is aiming this super high, but it's on budget hardware. That's just what consoles are. They're budget hardware. And that's probably the biggest shame of it all here. The music is amazing. The voice acting is damn decent. And I'm playing it in English. Everything about it just feels super high quality, but yet it's running on a PS5. And there are some parts of that just look damn ugly. With just the fact that the motion blur is there, you're gonna notice it unless you're just used to that. Then good on you console Kremlins who are just used to this crap already. You probably did yourself a favor. But yeah, you're gonna notice the frame rate dips and you're gonna notice the motion blur, and it's all because, well, you have a high quality game that's playing on budget hardware, but it is what it is. I'm gonna get the game regardless. I'm getting a physical copy of the game because that is very important to me, that I collect games physically that I think I will cherish. And I really do think I'm going to cherish this game. I think I'm genuinely going to enjoy the game. I'm actually really excited to go bother my friends and see what they think about the game. But please, guys, let me know what you think about Final Fantasy 16 in the comment section down below. If you played the demo, let me know your thoughts, man. I would love to hear it. If you can, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, or Kick, where I was streaming the game itself earlier today, if you'd like to continue the conversation. And guys, well, I'll be it. I'm out. Peace.